Chapter 4. Unemployment. Why can't people who want to work find jobs? The income principle behind Keynes's theory is simple. Income is earned whenever a newly produced good or service is sold in the marketplace. For example, when a person spends money to buy this book new, the total purchase price, or cost of this book contributes to the income of the bookseller, who, in turn, has paid part of this purchase price to contribute to the income of the publisher, who uses part to pay income to its employees. The publisher also has paid a sum to the income of the printer for printing the book. Furthermore, the publisher contributes to the author's income by making a royalty payment equal to a contractual agreed upon percentage of the monetary funds received from the bookseller. Any remaining sum of the money sum received by the publisher is the profit income of the publishing firm. The important principle involved here is that whatever is the purchase cost to a buyer of a newly produced good or service becomes income to the people and firms that has produced and sold the item purchased. In other words, every dollar of income people spend out of current income on newly produced items becomes a dollar of income for someone else in the economy. In general, we look to private enterprise to produce most of the products that generate most of the jobs in our economy. In order for workers and business enterprises to earn income, they must engage in the production of goods and services that someone willingly buys in the marketplace. It therefore follows that managers of business firms will employ more workers as long as these managers expect to sell all the output produced by the workers at a profitable price in the market. Unemployment occurs when managers do not expect sufficient market demand to be able to profitably sell the additional output that the unemployed workers, if hired, could have helped to produce. Consequently, the basic cause of unemployment in the economy is a lack of sufficient profitable market demand to encourage private sector entrepreneurs to hire all the workers who are willing to work at the going market wage. Of course, not all production and employment occurs in the private sector of the economy. Some productions and employment involve hiring by government to provide services directly to the public, for example, police, fire, and military protection, while some government services may actually be sold to the public, for example, postal service, the use of toll bridges and roads. In general, however, in our market-oriented economic system, we expect most jobs to be created by private sector firms hiring workers to produce products that can be profitably sold in the market. Consequently, in situations of recession and or depression, when unemployment is a significant economic problem, any government policy designed to reduce unemployment and move the system towards a more prosperous full employment economy must be a policy that helps to generate additional market demand spending for the goods and services that are produced by domestic industries. Suppose a household decides not to spend all its current income on goods and services and instead decides to save some income for retirement years. When a household decides to save part of one's current income, then this household is deciding not to spend all of its income immediately on producible goods and services. Instead, in our economy, savings is used to purchase bonds and corporate stocks sold in financial markets, or else merely kept as part of an unused bank account balance or even currency in a safe box at home. Any household savings out of current income, in effect, denies other people the ability to earn income that they would have earned if the household had decided not to save, but rather to spend all of their income on currently newly produced goods and services. In other words, a penny saved out of current income denies someone the ability to earn that penny as income. In developing his general theory, it became obvious to Keynes that the classical conception of savings was not the conception of denying others the ability to earn income. Rather, classical theorists considered savings as a rather vague notion that meant different things in different contexts. In Keynes's time, the basic classical theory presumed that a decision to save was a decision to order to purchase, via a forward market, a specific producible good or service to be delivered at a specific date in the future. Savings was merely what classical theorists called a time preference, ordering for each day in the future what goods to buy out of that part of today's income that households did not spend to buy goods and services today. Thus, in classical theory, all current income was always spent on producible goods and services as decision makers enter into what were called real contracts, not money, that involved the buying and selling of goods and services today and or in the future. In essence, this was a description of market transactions in a barter economy where goods always trade only for other goods. Under such a theory, Saving for retirement would involve the household in using every dollar value of current real income saved today to forward contractual order what specific food, clothing, etc. they would want to be delivered to their home on specific days of retirement. For classical theorists, savings merely was creating specific market demand for business managers to hire workers and create production schedules for today and the future. Under the influence of the philosopher G.E. Moore, Keynes recognized that a precise taxonomy regarding classification of spending and saving events in economics, like in biology, is crucial to scientific structure. As Keynes' first biographer, Roy Harrod noted, the real defect with the classical system was that it deflected attention from what most needed attention. It was Keynes' extraordinary powerful intuitive sense of what was important that convinced him the old classification system was inadequate. 2. Consequently, Keynes found it necessary to develop precise definition regarding different categories of spending out of current income in order to understand the cause of unemployment in the economic system. Keynes' explanation of why there could be a lack of sufficient aggregate market demand for the goods and services that could be produced at full employment depended on providing a precise definition of savings out of current income, a definition that was different than what classical time preference savings theory required. Keynes stated that all income earned by households could be classified into two categories, namely, consumption spending and savings. Keynes defined consumption spending as that portion of current income of households that is used to buy currently produced goods and services primarily from private sector business firms. Savings of households is then defined as that portion of current money income that is not used currently to buy producible goods and services, or as Keynes put it, an act of individual savings means, so to speak, a decision not to have dinner today, but it does not necessitate a decision to have dinner or buy a pair of boots a week hence or a year hence or to consume any specified thing at any specified date. Thus it depresses the business of preparing today's dinner without stimulating the business of making ready for some future act of consumption. 3. Keynes then noted that in a monetary economy savers had to store their savings in the form of some durable that could be held over a period of time with little or no carrying costs for the saver holding the durable over time. Accordingly, as long as there were some durables such as liquid financial assets that possess little or no carrying costs, it became obvious that real durable goods such as plant, equipment, automobiles and other consumer durables would not be bought merely to store savings, since the depreciation costs of holding such real assets over time would result in a significant loss in value if the durable was held as form of savings. Instead, Keynes defined savings out of current income as that portion of income that was held in the form of money, currency and bank deposits, and/or bonds, equity securities, or other financial liquid assets. Financial assets would be liquid if they can be readily bought with money and resold for money with little or no carrying costs or marketing costs. For example, brokers' fees in a financial market. Why are money and liquid assets so important as the things used to store current savings? Keynes's theory of savings and liquidity involves developing a serious monetary theory for all domestic and international market transactions. This theory emphasizes that all market transactions involving production and exchanges in a modern, market-oriented economy are organized via the use of legal money-denominated contracts. Why money contracts? Keynes' theory emphasizes the use of money contracts as an important way economic decision makers in the marketplace could deal with the problem of uncertainty about the future outcomes of today's decisions in our economic system. This legal money contracting view provides a new way of economic thinking to explain the operations of a monetary economy where entrepreneurs and households enter into money-denominated contracts in order to help deal with the uncertain future. We live in an economy with an irrevocable past and an uncertain future. In this world, decision makers know that they do not, and cannot, know with any degree of certainty the real economic future of producible goods, services, and employment. Yet they must live with decisions made today whose real outcome can only be known in the future. Accordingly, our economic system has developed the institution of legal money contracts that are used to organize all market production and exchange transactions. The use of money contracts provides buyer and seller decision makers with at least some legal contractual certainty and control over future cash inflows and outflows resulting from today's economic actions. Money contracts over time produce the concept of liquidity for individuals, where possessing liquidity involves the ability to meet one's money contractual obligations as they come due. This liquidity concept is an essential aspect of market decision-making in a capitalist economy with a financial market system. The need for liquidity affects all economic motives and decisions in the marketplace of such an economy. The sanctity of money contracts is the essence of the capitalist system and of Keynes's analysis. Liquidity, that is, the ability to meet one's money contractual commitments domestically and internationally, becomes an essential foundation for understanding what affects motives and decisions to enter into market transaction contractual agreements in the operation of our entrepreneurial market-oriented, money-using economy. Under the civil law of contracts, money is the thing that a government decides will settle all legal contractual obligations. Since the government not only makes and enforces the legal system, but the government also determines what is the thing called money that legally will settle all legal contractual obligations. All law-abiding citizens find their need for liquidity typically takes the form of maintaining a positive balance in their bank deposit checkbook and currency in their wallets, so all contractual obligations can be met as they come due. If, at any time, one's bank deposit is close to being overdrawn, the typical solution is either stop entering into additional money contractual payment obligations until more of one's cash inflow is received to increase one's deposit into one's bank account, or arrange for a bank line of credit, or sell a liquid financial asset in one's portfolio and use the money to replenish one's bank account. Since the future is uncertain, individual decision makers never know when they might suddenly be faced with a money contractual payment obligation at a future date that they did not, or could not, anticipate, and or that they cannot meet out of the cash inflows expected at that future date. Decision makers also never know if an expected cash inflow will suddenly disappear for any unexpected reason. For example, a reduction in pension income due to financial market value declines, or a loss of job, or the death of the breadwinner in the family, or government austerity program that impacts the decision maker's cash inflow, or an asset that was held in one's portfolio that was thought to be liquid, that is, could easily be sold for money, such as mortgage-backed derivatives, suddenly becomes illiquid and therefore cannot be readily sold for money. Accordingly, there is a precautionary liquidity motive for maintaining a positive bank deposit balance in order to protect against any unforeseen cash flow problems. In our society, no one can either be too handsome, or too beautiful, or too liquid. As long as the future is uncertain, enhancing one's liquidity position will cushion the blow of any contractual obligations that may occur. The more one fears the economic uncertain future, the bigger liquidity security cushion is desirable. Savings out of current income are always stored in the form of money or other durable liquid assets that are not costly to hold and can be readily and inexpensively converted into money to meet any future contractual obligations. Keynes wrote that money comes into existence along with debts, which are contracts for deferred payments, and price lists, which are offers of contracts for sale or purchase. Money itself is, namely by delivery of which debt contracts and price contracts are discharged, and in the shape of which a store of general purchasing power is held. Furthermore, it is a peculiar characteristic of money contracts that it is the state or community not only which enforces delivery, but also which decides what it is that must be delivered as a lawful discharge of a contract, and the age of charterless or state money was reached when the state claimed the right to declare what thing should answer as money. When it claimed the right not only to enforce the dictionary but also to write the dictionary. Today all civilized money is, beyond the possibility of dispute, charterless. 4. What distinguishes the Keynes post-Keynesian analysis from classical mainstream macroeconomic theory involves an analysis of whether decision makers can know with certainty the economic future involving real or money payouts and economic events. In classical theory analysis, it is presumed decision makers know the future, or, at least, have rational expectations about the future that provide decision makers with actuarial certain correct knowledge about the future. Keynes and his post-Keynesian followers 5 reject any classical assumption that presumes people can know the economic future. The rationale for such a rejection is that the economic future is not predetermined. Rather, the economic future it will be created by people's motivations and liquidity behavior in the marketplace. Keynes and the post-Keynesians insist that people know they cannot know the future outcome of important and crucial economic decisions made today. The future is truly uncertain and not just probabilistic risky. The Keynes alternative to the classical theory assumes an uncertain economic environment in terms of production of goods and services, yet, it provides one with an understanding of the operation and functioning of financial markets in a capitalist system. The primary function of all well-organized and orderly financial markets is to provide liquidity so that holders of financial assets traded on such orderly markets know they can make a fast exit from their liquid financial asset portfolio by selling their securities for money at a price close to the previous price in the market. For business firms and households, the maintenance of one's liquid position to meet all possible future contractual obligations is of prime importance if illiquidity and possible bankruptcy are to be avoided. In our economic world, bankruptcy is the economic equivalent of a walk to the gallows. Savings and liquidity. Saving is the attempt of savers to put some of today's cash income inflow that is not spent to buy goods and services into some low carrying cost time machine to carry the contractual settlement, purchasing power of this money inflow into the indefinite future. This time machine function is known as liquidity. The possession of liquidity means that the person has sufficient money or other liquid assets that can be readily resold for money in an orderly, organized market to meet all his or her contractual obligations as they come due. In a world of uncertainty, a decision maker cannot know what contracts either already entered into, or will be entered into in the future, will be defaulted by the payer when the decision maker is the pay recipient. The decision maker also does not know if there will be a need for more money for him or her to discharge all future contractual obligations, including some unexpected future contractual obligations as they come due. Money is the liquid asset par excellence, for it can always settle any legal contractual obligation as long as the residents of the economy are law-abiding and recognize the civil law of contracts. The more uncertain the decision maker feels about future economic events, the more money, or liquidity, he/she will desire to hold to meet possible unforeseen money contract contingencies. This characteristic of liquidity can be possessed in various degrees by some, but not all possible durables. Since any durable besides money cannot, by definition, settle a contract, then for durables other than money to be a liquidity time machine they must have 1. Low carrying costs and 2. Low sales transaction costs by being easily saleable and well organized, orderly markets for money. 6. The market for liquid financial assets must be well organized so as to have low transactions costs in bringing buyers and sellers together. The market also must be orderly, that is, any change in the market price from minute to minute must move in an orderly manner so that the next transaction price is not very different from the previous transaction price. As long as the market is orderly, the holder of liquid marketable securities believes he/she can make a fast exit by selling his/her holdings of the financial asset for money at a price not much different than the previously publicly announced price. The necessary condition for any market to be orderly is that there must be a market maker, that is, an institution possessing sufficient resources that it can and will make the market when there is a sudden absence of sufficient buyers, bulls, or sellers, bears. The market maker does not necessarily guarantee that the market price will never change over time. The market maker need only assure market participants that if the market price changes, it will change in an orderly manner, given the explicit, known rules under which the market maker operates. For any liquid security asset, the next moment's market price is never known with absolute certainty. What is known is that the price will not move in a disorderly manner from the last price because the market maker has sufficient liquidity to back up his/her assurance of an orderly market. For example, if suddenly many private sector holders of a specific financial asset suddenly turn bearish and try to make a fast exit from the market by selling their portfolio holdings, and there are not enough buyers, bulls, to allow the bears to make an orderly exit from the financial market, then the market maker steps in and buys to maintain price movement orderliness in the market. If this private sector market maker's own resources are insufficient to maintain orderliness when there is a herd behavior rush to the exit, then trading is usually suspended via circuit breaker rules until the market maker can obtain sufficient resources to maintain orderliness and or the selling panic subsides. If the private sector market maker cannot restore order in an important financial market, then it is the central banker who may have to become the market maker of last resort, either directly or through providing resources to the market maker, restore orderliness. A fully liquid asset is defined as any financial asset traded in a market where the private sector participants in the market know that the market price in terms of monetary units will not change for the foreseeable future. To be a fully liquid asset, there must be a market maker who can guarantee that the money price of the asset will not change over time even if circumstances change. An example of a fully liquid asset is a foreign currency whose value in terms of domestic currency is fixed by the central bank of the nation. As long as the central bank has sufficient foreign reserves, it can, if it wishes, guarantee a fixed exchange rate. A liquid asset is a durable asset with low carrying costs that is readily resaleable in a well-organized, orderly market, but the market maker does not guarantee an unchanging market price. The market maker only assures market prices will change in an orderly manner. An illiquid asset is an asset that cannot be readily resaleable at any price in the market. Illiquid assets do not have orderly, organized resale markets. There is no market maker who is willing to organize an orderly market for the illiquid asset. 2 essential properties of liquid assets. As we have already suggested, when decision makers save in the form of purchasing liquid assets, that savings per se will not generate the market demand necessary to induce managers to hire workers to produce more goods and services. If this is correct, then there are certain essential properties that liquid assets must possess if aggregate savings desired by the population in an economy is to have an effect on the level of employment and output in the economy. These essential properties that Keynes claimed are characteristic of all liquid assets and are the basis for differentiating Keynes's explanation of unemployment from the classical theory's explanation of unemployment that blames rigidities in market prices and/or money wages as the cause of unemployment. Keynes wrote, the classical theory has been accustomed to rest the supposedly self-adjusting character of the economic system on an assumed fluidity of money wages, and where there is a rigidity, to lay on this rigidity the blame for maladjustment. My difference from this theory is primarily a difference of analysis. 7. To explain unemployment due to a lack of sufficient market demand, Keynes identified 2 essential properties of money and all other liquid assets. Keynes stated, the attribute of liquidity is by no means independent of the presence of these 2 characteristics. 8. These 2 essential properties are: all liquid assets are non-producibles in the sense that even if the market demand for such assets increases, private sector business firms will not hire more workers to produce a greater supply of money or other liquid assets, and there is no substitutability between liquid assets, including money, and reproducible goods to be used for storing savings for the purpose of providing liquidity necessary to purchase things at some future date. Since money is the most liquid of all assets, essential property 1 means something that even preschool children have to learn, namely that money does not grow on trees. Consequently, parents cannot just harvest a money tree to obtain more money when the child cries for purchasing an expensive toy in a store, or as Keynes wrote, money cannot be readily reproduced. Labor cannot be turned on at will by entrepreneurs to produce money in increasing quantities as its price rises. 9. In other words, when the demand for money, liquidity, increases, private sector entrepreneurs cannot hire labor to produce more money, or any other liquid assets, to meet this increase in demand for these non-reproducible, by workers in the private sector liquid assets. Keynes's theory, defining savings as any portion of currently earned income that is not spent on produced goods and services. Accordingly, the 2 essential properties Keynes identifies with money and all other liquid assets imply that as long as savers do not spend their accumulated savings on producibles, then these resting savings are denying other persons the ability to earn income by selling a producible to the saver for his/her savings. Keynes demonstrated that the economy can find itself with significant levels of unemployment even in a competitive system with flexible wages and prices of producible goods and services whenever there are resting places for savings in non-producibles. In other words, the belief that if market money wages were perfectly flexible rather than being rigid or even sticky there would be no unemployment is not true as long as liquidity is an important factor in making market decisions and liquid assets have the aforementioned 2 essential properties that produce resting places for savings. The existence of such liquid assets which savers desire to use to store their savings indicates that any such non-reproducible asset allows income earners a choice between spending on employment-inducing producible goods and services or spending 1. Savings on liquid assets that are non-employment-inducing demand. 10. If a portion of income earned in producing goods and services is saved to be used to demand non-producible liquid assets, then unless others do save, that is, others spend on producibles sufficiently more than their income to offset the positive savings of today's savers, full employment cannot be achieved no matter how flexible are wages and prices of producibles. In sum, if income earning savers store their savings in money and other liquid non-reproducible assets that are not gross substitutes for the products of the capital goods producing industries, then all income earned by households engaging in the production of goods in any period is not, in the short or long run, necessarily spent on the products of industry. Households who want to store that portion of their income that they do not consume, that is, that they do not spend on the products of industry, in liquid assets are choosing a non-employment inducing demand for their savings. So it is the choice by savers of what to use to provide a resting place for their savings and not the rigidity or stickiness of wages and prices that can cause persistent levels of unemployment. Apparently, Milton Friedman recognized this conceptualization of savings stored in the form of non-producibles as a problem for classical theory and the monetary economic analysis that he championed. Accordingly, Friedman implicitly resurrected the idea the free markets will ensure full employment when he redefined the facts of what is consumption and especially what is savings in terms that should seem strange to most people. Friedman does this by redefining consumption as the value of services consumed. Utility defines consumption as the complete using up of a purchased good. So, for example, if I purchase an ice cream pop from a seller on the street and then eat the pop, I have consumed the ice cream. Savings out of current income is then defined by Friedman as the portion of current income that is spent today to purchase producible durable goods. Since these goods are durables, they will not be completely used up immediately, consumed. Since, by definition, a durable good will last for more than one day or one accounting period, then the total utility services derived from any durable purchase today cannot be, in Friedman's definition, completely consumed all in the one accounting day of purchase. Consumption, in Friedman's definition, involves the purchase of all non-durables during the accounting period, which, by definition of non-durable, means used up in the accounting period, plus the depreciation or utility used up, during the accounting period, of produced durables. Thus, in Friedman's theory of a monetary economy, today's purchase of long-lived producible durables such as cars, appliances, a diamond ring, a yacht, private airplane etc. in the current period are defined as savings out of current income, except for the slight depreciation of such a durable good during the current period. Friedman claims his taxonomy is superior to others because much that one classifies as consumption is reclassified as savings. 11 Accordingly, Friedman can still maintain the assumptions of the known future and neutrality of money by redefining what people call savings. This new Friedman taxonomy suggests that the facts regarding what most people think are savings in the form of liquid assets that might support the Keynes analysis are wrong. When these facts about savings are redefined by Friedman, then the savings by households in terms of buying a newly produced durable out of current income create jobs just as much as household spending on non-durable consumption goods like food does in Friedman's model. Friedman's taxonomy presumes all income, whether it is what he defines as savings or spent on consumption, will be spent on the purchase of newly produced goods and services. Thus, savings creates jobs just as consumption spending does under the Friedman taxonomy. Which concept of savings does the reader believe is more realistic? Is it Friedman's where a purchase of a new yacht is still defined as savings, or Keynes's where the purchase of a yacht for pleasure boating is called consumption, or even conspicuous consumption by some? According to Keynes, as long as savers rest their savings in non-producibles assets and never use producible items as their place to store savings, then unemployment can occur even in the long run in an economic system with flexible wages and prices. Consequently, classical theory is never applicable to economy where money contracts, and liquidity are important determinants of people's actions in the marketplace of a money-using system. Keynes's serious monetary and liquidity theory explains unemployment as the result of savings finding resting places in non-producible liquid assets where the desired level of aggregate savings by the population is not offset by equal to savings spending of others in excess of their income in the same accounting period. Accordingly, Whenever there is a significant strong aggregate propensity to save by savers in the form of liquid assets in the macroeconomy, there must be other decision makers willing to spend enough to save, go into debt, if the economy is not to fall into recession. Who are these desavers likely to be? Keynes identified two basic important classes of desavers: enterprises who finance their purchase of newly produced capital goods and inventories typically by borrowing from banks or by the issuing bonds and/or equities on the financial market, and governments who finance the buying costs of producible goods, infrastructure, and services in excess of tax revenues by borrowing, that is, deficit spending. Clearly the differing definition of savings and the lack of any concept of liquidity in Friedman's classical model of our economic system implies no need for the government deficit spending to ensure full employment since, under Friedman's redefinition of the facts household. For unemployment, why can't people who want to work find jobs? 53. Savings can only be via the purchase of producibles and therefore creates just as much demand for products produced by labor as consumption spending. Accordingly, as long as people spend all their income in each period on producibles, there is no reason why the economy could not provide full employment as long as the government does not intervene in the market. The Keynes analysis provides a differing rationale for the role of government policies that should be aimed at encouraging savings in the system to offset aggregate savings in order to end recessionary pressures in a modern economy. Finally, it is sometimes argued that unemployment occurs because the unemployed workers do not have the necessary skills needed to fill a position offered by private sector employers. In this case, the unemployed workers are again blamed for their not being hired. If only the unemployed had pursued enough education, they would have obtained sufficient skills to become employed. But even that explanation is not sufficient. If market demand is sufficient, employers would provide on-the-job training for the unemployed to develop the skills necessary to produce profitable products for the enterprise. For example, during the Second World War, with many young men conscripted into the military, there were not enough men in the civilian population to fill all the men's jobs that the federal government's purchases of military equipment required. One of these men's jobs was that of riveters necessary to build ships for the Navy. Until then, riveting was considered a job requiring physical strength only a man could do. With the shortage of available men to do this physical work, firms wanting to obtain lucrative government contracts successfully hired and trained women to be riveters. These women were known as Rosie the Riveter. This example indicates that given sufficient market demand, business firms can provide on-the-job training for those unemployed who presently apparently do not have enough skills for jobs required to meet market demands. 54 P. Davidson notes. G. Moore, Principia Ethica, Cambridge University Press, Cambridge, 1903. R. F. Harrod, The Life of John Maynard Keynes, London, Macmillan, 1951, pages 463-464. J. M. Keynes, The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money, London, Macmillan, 1936, page 210. J. M. Keynes, A Treatise on Money, Volume 1, Macmillan, London, 1930, pages 3-4. And even George Soros, Letter to the Editor, The Economist, the 15th to the 21st of March 1997 issue. Even if an organized resale market exists for producible durable goods, these durable producibles typically have high carrying costs and high resale costs compared to money and other liquid financial assets. Accordingly, producible durable goods are not the things in which people tend to store their savings. For example, despite a market for second-hand automobiles, savers do not store their savings out of current income via the purchase of an automobile. Opposite, page 257. Opposite page 241 N1. Opposite pages 230. Opposite, page 39. Opposite, page 28.